with a twist. From their famous Kelaguen Hoffa to fresh ahi poke salad and their award-winning barbecue ribs, Mezcla takes your favorite local dishes and serves them with extra flair that you'll only find at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Stop by their newest location in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon. For reservations, call 969-2652. Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, getting us started on today's edition of Tall Tales. Good afternoon. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie, who is away again. And, my preference is I'd like to listen to him. And I know you do too, but in the meantime, I'll be here, here to take your calls and here to consider your concerns about what's going on in the news today. If there's something on your mind, by all means, give me a call at 888-8255. That's 888-TALK, or you can find us on Facebook. And let's see, got you up here, Facebook. We have you there, and also find us on YouTube. And where else? Well, I'm happy to have you wherever you are. With me this afternoon. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to be back here. I just kind of settled right in listening to Bob over the past week. And climbing back into this saddle is well, I don't know. It's almost like I didn't have enough of a break. It's almost like I had a vacation, but maybe I want to hear about what's on your mind. There's a lot happening in the news these days. One thing I was kind of struck by when I was talking to a few people is that is the dengue fever outbreak ended? We haven't heard anything new about any new cases, or that the cases have not increased. Usually they will say if the cases have not increased, or they're supposed to say that the cases have increased. But, does anybody know? Has the Department of Public Health and Social Services come out with a new statement since they've tallied the results from all the clinics and hospitals on island since a week ago Friday? Not this past Friday, but a week ago Friday was the last report. And so I'm just wondering, if somebody knows, give me a call, and we will discuss it here online. And let's see, tall tales to be told. Bob calls it tall tales, but I don't hear him say too many things that would be considered tall tales, except that he's tall. And so we'll continue from there. Again, our telephone number, 888-8255. Don't have an item for the Second Amendment, although I am going to tell you once again, as I've been telling you since the early part of this year, is that I intend to go down and apply for a firearms permit and then walk with you through the process. In fact, I had an application. I'd filled it out, and I was about to take it down last week. And then I noticed that I filled it out in blue ink. And it specifically says black ink. And so I did not turn it in. I'm going to have to go down and get another form and be prepared to pay it's $140. And so, let's see. And let's see, Real Joe, is there somebody already ready to get going? All right. Line 1, you're on the air. Thanks for calling Tall Tales.
So can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Welcome to the show.
This fancy truck sometimes outsmarts me. So yeah, I wouldn't mention any names, but this morning someone was in a hurry coming out of Plaza Gardens and forgot to put the tailgate of the truck up. And therefore, there is a number of tools that apparently fell out in the street very near to Plaza Gardens. There is a $100 reward for said tools.
$100 reward.
Yep.
Neat. Wow. Well, let's hope that that whoever stopped to pick up those tools is listening this afternoon and is welcome to, well, I guess they'd have to get a hold of you. How would they do that?
Well, they could do that through you because you know me.
Yes, I do. Yes, indeed. So if there's somebody out there who would like to help get the tools back to the rightful owner, coming out of Plaza Gardens this morning, and unfortunately dropping them out of the back of the truck, he's willing to give a $100 reward. And you can call here to the station. Our telephone number here is 888-8255, and I'll be very happy to hook you up with the fellow who is offering the reward. Thank you so much.
That embarrassing event happened at 6:30 this morning.
6:30.
Yep.
Man. Well, did you try putting this word out earlier in the day?
Only to a daughter who knows how to post things on the internet. I'm not sure how she's done that, but I've been fairly busy all day.
Wow. Well, let's hope the word gets out and you can recover your tools, because
I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for calling in this afternoon.
My pleasure. We'll talk to you again soon.
And I hope you're doing well. And that is actually, I know this fellow, and I could tell you his name, but let's see if there's somebody out there who knows about these tools that fell out of the back of his truck. Tailgate of the truck wasn't up. The entrance to Plaza Gardens at 6:30 this morning. And if you know something about this, he's offering a reward of $100. And you can give us a call here at the station at 888-8255. And I'll be happy to give you that number, and you can call him back and get connected there. Yeah. All right. Sorry to hear that, but happy to pass the word along. Real Joe, let's do Zami Kotny. And this afternoon, taking a look at the PDN. And today's PDN editorial is about Saudi money. Currency speaks louder than murder. And I don't think I'm going to go through this. This is a guest editorial from the USA Today editorial board. And as interested as I am in national and international news, unless our local newspaper is going to post editorials of local import, not really much reason to spend time on this radio station anyway, discussing them. You can read it and you can ponder it and think of the relevance that information has to your life, and it may well be very relevant. But as a matter of economy here on Tall Tales, we'll skip over that PDN, and we'll go straight on to the Guam Daily Post and see what they are talking about today in the editorial boardroom. New solutions must be in place to keep schools safe from violent, disruptive students. So says the editorial writers over at the Guam Daily Post. Let's see how they're doing today, if how they approach this. It's encouraging to hear after recent riots at some of Guam's public high schools sent some students to the hospital that new solutions for school safety are being discussed. Recent riots have involved students who had been drinking hard liquor, including vodka, on campus. For the sake of the students who go to school to learn and get ahead in life, public schools need to change the way students and staff enter public school campuses. Safety is paramount on campus. If a few disruptive students want to bring weapons, alcohol, or drugs to school, they must be stopped before they set foot on campus. Guam Public Schools can no longer throw caution to the wind, trusting that all students enter the campus with good intentions. The reality is, some don't. Some show up drunk. Some show up with vodka. Others bring weapons or drugs. Others go to school to cause violence and draw attention to themselves without regard for the safety of others. It's time to tighten the entry into public school campuses. It's time we all acknowledge that it is the responsibility of the school system and individual schools to screen the entry into campuses. Violent and disruptive students who are sent from households that don't take responsibility for their children's actions must be kept out of the school setting. The recent decision to kick out more than a dozen public school students for their disruptive behavior is a good start. It sends a message to their families to own up to the behavior of the children they're sending out to schools and society in general. At a legislative oversight hearing Monday night on public school safety, some ideas from teachers were brought up. Some of our secondary school teachers have suggested using metal detectors at campuses. Guam Education Board member John Birch said, "This is not a bad idea." Banning students from bringing bottles onto campus, but allowing school stores to sell bottled beverages was another suggestion. Banning cell phones, restricting the use of certain school bags, training school personnel to conduct searches and breathalyzer tests based on reasonable grounds, providing school personnel with pepper spray, and conducting or increasing outreach to at-risk students and hiring more school aides were also brought up. It's good that there's talk of considering the implementation of new solutions to help keep students safe from their disruptive and violent peers. The safety on school campuses will not improve if school communities are content with recycling the same old ideas and expecting better results. Security measures at the gates to public school campuses must be overhauled with drastic changes soon, before more violence erupts and other peace-loving students and staff get hurt. This editorial seems to argue that the portals to the school are where the Department of Education will detect who is likely to be breaking the rules over the next 5 or 6 hours on campus. I mean, they're placing all their marbles on drastic measures. Let's see what they put in here. Screen the entry into campuses. Violent and disruptive students who are sent from households that don't take responsibility for their children's actions must be kept out of the school setting. Well, that is really difficult to determine at 6:40 in the morning when you're trying to load a campus with 2,200, 2,800 students and staff. One entrance, or you're going to staff, we're going to have the equivalent of a TSA with the equipment and the legal authority and the training and the staffing to provide an orderly screening at the entrance of every school. Are we talking also about the elementary schools or just about the high schools? And never mind the middle schools, where I understand it's a bit more free-flowing. Just that they don't, when they get into fights, they don't cause as much damage because of their smaller size. What is really needed is for citizens to be citizens. I disagree with this editorial completely. It is not another government program that is needed to militarize the gates of schools and empower the gatekeepers to divine who is likely to cause trouble. Take yours truly, for example. When I was very close to a straight-A student, I used to bring candy to school. And it wasn't here on Guam. It was elsewhere. But you could go to a store and buy these hard candies that had a half of a shot of alcohol in the middle of the hard candy. And you could buy the candies according to the type of alcohol you wanted, whether it was a brandy or a rum or a vodka or a bourbon. They were very good. Or you could get chocolates that had half of a shot inside the chocolate. And you wouldn't take them for breakfast. You'd wait until fourth period, because you knew sixth period was not going to be very pleasant at all. And that was coming from a nearly straight-A student. I wasn't out to get belligerent. But who would know if there was a screening at the entrance to the school? Would they go through and see that all the way down to examining whether I was carrying chocolates? Or get metal detectors? I know John Birch, but install metal detectors so that you could see if there were weapons coming into the school. Usually, students who are going to cause trouble or drink or do something else that's not allowed under the rules, they're moving around in the school population. There are other students that are right there with them in hour after hour from class to class. And if you're drinking alcohol, when you exhale, you can smell it. Others can smell it. So it's a matter of citizenship. It's whether students are going to point out people who are not conforming with the rules, whether they're carrying weapons or they are threatening violence or they are planning to have a fight, and have it easier for that information to go to the school authorities that are already on site to remove and preempt the violence, or remove a person before the alcohol level gets so high that they lose their inhibitions. So, sorry, Charlie, this editorial is not thought through unless you're out to increase the cost of running our school system in ways that continues to make it the responsibility of the government to enforce the rules when they don't really have people there to enforce those rules. Other people, more people on payroll. Students have to step up and be good citizens. And that is something we should be teaching in our schools. So no blue star for you today, Guam Daily Post. Thank you for the attempt. And I've got Tom on the line. Good afternoon, Tom.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm back. I'm in the saddle and I'm riding.
Why do you always chase out Bob?
No, no.
Then you chased him out again.
Did you hear him say the other day that there's only two people who can come in here and do this while he's gone? I'm sure there are other people who could, but he trusts me to do it. And so when he bought his plane ticket, he called me. And here I am. I was enjoying my vacation. I could be out in the backyard at 4:30 in the afternoon or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, just enjoying that bright, beautiful afternoon on Guam. And so, not in traffic. I was just enjoying the day.
But like you said, there are other people who can do that job, but you are the best qualified.
Well, I in his estimation, and that was a high compliment. For me, this hasn't been my field. This hasn't. I've been not doing this. My experience isn't in talk radio or even commercial radio. It's non-commercial radio. Not religious radio, but non-commercial. But I am here, and we have things to talk about. What's on your mind today, Tom?
Anyway, the airwaves of Guam is always welcome to have your voice swarming around our atmosphere.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
What's on my mind is I just tuned in and you were talking about the Guam Education Policy Board. Are they having a meeting about the problems of the school right now? Or?
No, in the editorial today in the Guam Daily Post, there was a legislative oversight hearing Monday evening on public school safety, and then ideas were brought up from the teachers. And my father was a teacher over at JFK and at Sanchez, and so he would tell me about the challenges of the people in the school, young men and young women too, who are finding their way in the world, but they're still in school, and so they are expressing themselves and they have concerns and they are acting as they see adults act, and they're acting this way in school. Sometimes it's aggression. Sometimes it's romance. Sometimes there's all kinds of ways to be displaying your maturity, and some of those are very productive and some are not. And all the teachers see it, but the question is, how do you not react to it and guide the students into the right direction, for their own individual, development, for their own individual progress.
But who do you think is going to make the final decision on what policy or what they're going to make as far as catching these students that are sneaking alcohol into the school or weapons into the school? Is the education board or the legislature is going to make those decisions?
Well, the teachers are asking...
What action are they going to take?
The teachers are asking the legislature for a solution. But I think they're looking in the wrong direction. And I think the Department of Education is looking in the wrong direction. If they're looking for TSA-type gates, and procedures, instead of looking to the citizenship of the students and having them responsible for participating as citizens in the smooth operation of their community while they are there.
That's what I was just going to say, that the Guam Education Board should hold a public forum, a public meeting on a weekend, like on a Saturday, where the parents can be off from their work and then attend a meeting, because they better not have it on a weekday or on a weeknight when people are working or people just got off work and they're tired, they'd rather go home. It's got to be done on a Saturday where some students might want to be there and the parents obviously got to be there. But we all, as a community, got to make a decision on this We cannot let those education board members make that decision for us because it involves our children that are at school. Because in my opinion, if they're gonna ban a water bottle from being taken into the school, just because some students are emptying the water and putting in vodka into that water bottle to disguise the vodka, and then they're sneaking into the school. And if they're going to ban all bottled water, it's going to deprive the good students that are complying with the law of actually bringing in real, legitimate water for them to be drinking, because they cannot trust the drinking fountain at the school because it's unfiltered water. It doesn't taste good. And I know this. I even have a grandnephew that takes in bottled water, okay, and because they'd rather drink that, especially the athletes after school, they have practices, right? They'll rather drink the bottled water that they bring from home during their practice at the football field or whatever. They don't want to drink the fountain that comes out of the tap water from the school campus.
They don't want to.
And I know that there's one of the suggestions that was brought up is to ban all bottled water to be brought in by all students, and that is wrong in my opinion. Because we're punishing the good students that are obeying the law, or obeying the rules, just because some 1% of the students will be sneaking in alcohol in place of water. So we should not punish the majority that are doing good. That's why I want to be at the public meeting on when whatever decision they're going to make to prevent sneaking in of alcohol and or weapons. I want to be there, and I want to express my opinion to those board members or whoever's going to make that decision. I don't want those board members themselves to make that decision because it affects whatever they decide in that.
Yes. Oh, he's gone. Oh, I don't know what happened to you, Tom, but right in the middle of your sentence, just as the music ended, your call ended. But thank you very much. Got the point. Yeah, you don't want to have the board members make that decision because they're penalizing the law-abiding students. Well, let's go ahead and take our break here. Real Joe, it's 4:33 and a half, and we'll take this break and come back with more Tall Tales.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details. It's a one-of-a-kind wine fundraiser. Guahan Sustainable Culture presents Wine in the Garden. The Hamamoto Gardens help support food sovereignty, security, and sustainability while sipping wines from around the world, surrounded by 50-some acres of beautiful farm and garden. Tickets are $75 each. Proceeds support education and outreach on how important, easy, and fun sustainable practices can be. Wine in the Garden is on Saturday evening, October 26, starting at 5. For more details, go to our website, gusustainable.org, or call 687-6491.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. I am Daryl Taggarty, and I sure do hope that Bob Klitzkie's enjoying his vacation because I'm working on a day when I'd love to be sitting out there getting a tan in the afternoon or taking a look for the sunset, which the sun goes down before I have a chance to get out of this chair and out to where I can see it, about 3 or 4 minutes after 6 these days. I want to welcome to Facebook. I've got Tom Tahaji and Lynn Tidinko and my cousin Catherine Tyron. And Tito Guay says, to any senator that has the courage to do, can you introduce legislation to have preferred status by our people be put to vote on next year's election? Let there be no doubt in what our people really want, not from a survey poll that can be construed as a formatted, manipulated something to get desired results. It was sent to the UN already that stated this is the true picture of what our people want, which I find wrong. Let us all decide as a people to what to vote on. Let's leave no doubt on what all our residents want at this time. And that's Tito Guai's comment on Facebook here. Chris Chip says, school violence on Guam is just the tip of the iceberg. Look what happened in the killing of the Assistant Attorney General in the FSM. It's all a matter of time before the criminal behavior and civilization reaches one to the extent it exists on the mainland. And then he continues, I'm sure people never believed that these types of behavior would ever come to Guam. That is one way to look at it. That criminal or uncivilized behavior would filter out from the metropole to far-flung corners of the empire and infect us. When most people don't think of themselves as being influenced by or enabled by even mass media or dominant culture or so. Usually you get a little older and you drink a little bit too much, and you get your grousing becomes acted out, and then you're striking out in the wrong direction, and people want to stop you, and then after it happens 20 times, then maybe something really serious happens that requires the attention of the authorities. And so people know about this. Family members, neighbors know when people are starting to get close to the edge of their freedoms, and to become start crossing into criminal or even unethical behavior. Got Carl on line one. Welcome to Tall Tales, Carl.
Good afternoon, my friend. How are you doing, Daryl?
Well, I'm doing all right, except it's such a beautiful day outside. I'm not quite ready to come in here, but it makes it easier to be here when I see these phone calls coming in, and we can discuss what's on your mind. How are you doing?
Yeah, I miss the sunshine. I'm really enjoying it. I just have had enough of cloudy, rainy days.
Yes, right.
On some of that liquid sunshine, the liquid gold.
The liquid gold.
Yes.
But it's been beautiful, and but I am here to, this is my row to hoe. So
yes.
I am going to do what I have to do, and keep you all entertained here.
Big shoes to fill, but I think you're doing a pretty good job.
Well, I'm clumping around, that's for sure.
Yeah. I just want to chime in on local education. I was born on Guam, grew up on Guam, been here 60 years. I went through the entire education system from first grade all the way through college here. And, my 4 kids, all of them went to Benevente Middle School. And I have a friend who returned from the States last year and taught all year at Benevente. Now, I'm sure there are good teachers at Benevente, and there are good students there. But he told me some of the inside horror stories of what he had to endure. And part of that maybe because he was, he hadn't been here in a while, and he had to kind of start at the bottom rung. I think he had some ESL classes and, things like that, which often happens to the newer teachers. They get the more difficult classes. But the stuff he told me, it'll curl my hair. I briefly tried teaching locally, and I emphasis on briefly, because I just didn't have the patience for it. I really did not. You're only given a certain amount of time per class, and you end up spending so much time trying to get control of the class. And I have to admire, teachers that are able to do it. I'm glad that the charter schools have gotten a foothold on Guam. Charter schools don't always work, but when they do, when you have successful charter schools, they are a way out for kids locked into poverty. There's a video, if anyone gets a chance. I saw a video one time. I think it was a Reason TV video, which is a. You still there, Darryl?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was, which is a libertarian outfit. They put out videos on YouTube. But the name of and it was looking at the charter school concept, and specifically it looked at a inner city charter school called Boys Latin, which was pretty much all black. They wear uniforms, very neat, very orderly, very strict discipline. No, going down the hallways with your shirt untucked. Someone will stop you and tell you tuck in your shirt.
Well, this was in like Dallas, right?
Latin. That's where the name Boys Latin comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking to the head of the school and asking him, why Latin? Latin isn't even a living language anymore, And he was saying one of the reasons is because it's a hard language. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of hard work. And this stuff brings out the best in his students. And these were really very good students, and they're from inner cities. So I'm glad that the charter schools are gaining a toehold locally, because the local education system has a monopoly in education, along with several other monopolies. And I believe government monopoly, business monopolies are pretty bad. Government monopolies are the worst of all monopolies. Because, as with all monopolies, if there's poor service, you have no other alternatives. We can't go to another school.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about this video in Boys Latin, I remember a scene where it showed hundreds and hundreds of families in these inner cities, black mothers and fathers and their children, signing up for the lottery because they were opening up places to enter Boys Latin. And I saw a picture of a little black kid crying, tears streaming down his face, because he was not chosen to enter Boys Latin. And that's how desperate these kids are to get out of this guerrilla warfare that goes on in public schools. And the administrations basically shrug their shoulders. And my friend has told me the same thing. The administration of the school basically shrugged their shoulders and said, deal with it. When he brought them problems happening in his classroom, discipline problems, they said, you should not be bringing this kid here. You need to deal with it in your classroom. No support at the administrative end.
And this is where taking the problem and kicking it out to the school board or the legislature for a solution, which is how many steps away from those who are most familiar with the problem or the behavior of the child. And child because they're not yet adults and they're not treated as adults. They're not expected to be responsible in a criminal sense, or to be sent out into the world, rejected from the system completely. We just raised
they're not adults, Darryl, but we do expect civilized behavior. I remember when I went to GW many, many years ago. I'm 60, and I was about 17 or so back then. So that was a long time ago. But this was the time when Anderson was still going to GW, the Anderson kids. Mm-hmm. And I remember specifically, I remember a kid named James. He was I'm pretty sure he was an Anderson kid. He's kind of a shorter kid. He came off as a little bit snooty because he was pretty smart. But someone lured him to one of the sections of one of the school, there's every village dominated a certain section. The Anagat section, the Santa Rita section.
I was a
The
substitute.
Doña section.
I was a substitute when you were there.
They pounded his face. I remember the school aide or teacher was leading him down the hallway during lunch, and that kid's face was covered with blood. If that was my son, I don't send my kid to school to get jumped by 5 or 10 guys and pounded. We're leaving, pretty much. So if the education system demands on having a monopoly, they have an obligation to protect the safety of the 95% of students that are not causing problems. If that 5% or 2% or whatever percentage is in the classroom has problems, they've got to figure out what to do. Because
Yes.
they've chosen to have an absolute total monopoly on public education. So they have an obligation to protect our children and not let them become victims of kids whose parents are not disciplining them. They have an obligation to do it.
And it also is a function of their profession. The teachers, the counselors, the administrators of a school need to as professionals find a way to maintain order, and by and large they do. We hear about the events, the incidents where it crosses the line, or maybe we only hear about those that are most only those that kind of spill out into the public consciousness because of a video that's gone viral or something like this and becomes a public issue. Otherwise, it's an issue within a school, and then if you've got these very same issues in multiple schools, then that's what the folks at DOE Central Administration, that is their job, to figure this out. That when they go to conferences, when they have, they hire people to be in charge of an aspect of school safety, then that person should be finding and implementing ways to improve safety on campus. And this is why I think it's sort of leapfrogged off into the legislature, and it really should have stopped at the board, and there should be, they should just be working on it to they're not going to solve it, but they need to be continually addressing it and improving on their delivery and not giving themselves excuses. Say, well, I'm sorry, it's 10 o'clock. We're not getting anywhere tonight, so we're not going to, we'll take all your comments that you've given us, and then we're going to, we're going to go back to the office and we're going to ponder this for a while. No, this is an ongoing issue, and when you get the daily newspaper advocating for, controlled gates, and I don't know what, pat downs, searches. You're going to have body cavity searches. You're going to have sampling of liquids. Where are we going here? It's a outside solution.
Normally I'm not an advocate for government control, but in this case government has stepped in and through force said we want a monopoly of public education. So since they've inserted themselves in that way, if that's what it takes to make sure my son or my daughter doesn't get beaten or something else, physically harmed, or constantly bullied, fine, do it. I'm all for it. I want my children to come home safe and not covered with blood, or black eyes, and to tell me they've been pounded. I don't have any kids in the public education system anymore, and I'm glad with what I'm seeing and what I've heard from friends within the system. But if that's what it takes, they've chosen to have a monopoly. If that's what it takes, do it. I want my children safe as a parent.
Well, thank you very much, Carl, for your call this afternoon. One thing I had, you said early on, I need to add in here. I also went to Benevente Middle School. It was called Dedito Junior High, and it was in the first year it was built. And so, yeah, and I know it wasn't any better then than it is now, and it was a brand new school. But thank you so much, Carl, for the call. And we'll, it's time. Okay, take good care. It's 10 minutes to 5, and it's time to take a break, and we'll come back with more Tall Tales.
Take Care Wellness presents the 7th Save the Susu Dance Fitness Fundraiser, October 19th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Teason High School. Tickets are $10 in advance, $15 the day of the event, and $5 for kids ages 6 to 12. Tickets are available at Take Care Wellness, Guam Cancer Care, and through Marissa Collins. Grand prize for the raffle is a round-trip ticket to Asia or Micronesia from United Airlines. All proceeds benefit Guam Cancer Care. This message is made possible by the stations of Choice Broadcasting.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. Just taking a look at a Facebook comment. Nate Horn says, but I have to listen to mass media so I know what to be upset at today. Well, I guess if you're running short of reasons, or if you're tired of the same old reasons, you can open up the paper, or you can tune in to talk radio, or go online and click, and find yourself a story to be upset with, or a point of view that you don't agree with, that you can get your blood pressure up. I tend not to do that as a rule, but I know maybe it's avoiding the kinds of media that will kind of get up underneath your skin and give a tug. So, we do what we have to do. It's just not. We have to stay informed about what's going on, and it's been a truism that good news doesn't sell newspapers. And so, as much as I'd love to give you good news and welcome so many more listeners to the show, because this is where they can come to get some good news, that hasn't proven to be a compelling way to make a living. And I'm not trying to invent anything, that's for sure. But we do have an obligation to ourselves to stay informed and to put pressure on those who are paid handsomely to address these common problems, the problems that we have in common, not the ones that recur all the time. Well, those two. But, we have to stay involved with this because, as Carl was just saying, if the government's going to have a monopoly on education, then it should ensure the safety of the students in the system. It doesn't really, because we have parochial schools, and we have the charter schools, and we have homeschooling. Now, those are not options for everybody. And so the public schools should be a safe and effective learning environment, as long as it's going to be a public service. We shouldn't have, when you go to Rev and Tax, you shouldn't be expecting that somebody's going to, come and steal your lunch money, on your way to registering your car. They maintain safety there. Well, it's no different being on a school campus. It's just you got a lot more people, and so you have to police it differently. But it's not a place for police. It is a place for citizenship. And so perhaps they should be teaching citizenship a bit better. And they have done this in the elementary grades. When my kids were going to LBJ and to Mooning Elementary, they stressed this. It is the obligation of students to finger their classmates that are threatening to act up or are ideating suicide or have brought something to school that is forbidden, like a gun or bullets or a knife or poison or an animal. The students are responsible for the quality of their community that they live in, just like us adults. And we need to act. We need to stress this and continue to teach it. And that's kind of the point I was making. Let's see what else is going on online here. I just thought it was kind of funny that Nate Horn's comment about listening to mass media so you know what to be upset with today. Earlier today, I started to get reading into the Supreme Court case about the challenge whether PROMESA as a construct of federal law and imposed on the people of Puerto Rico, who have their own constitution and their own elected officials and their own duly constituted government, whether the PROMESA members are illegitimate because they have not been confirmed according to another clause of the Constitution, or if they are legitimate simply because of the territorial clause. And you've been hearing about how this affects the insular cases, but the insular cases were about, there was a general understanding of the status of territories that were not part of the original 48 states. That there was a because we added these territories, the United States added territories in the Spanish-American War. Unlike the taking of territory before 1898, there had to be some understanding of how these territories would be governed in conformance with the Constitution, and but without the long-range projection that these territories would become a part of the United States, a permanent part. And so I don't think that there are some who are saying that that this case today and another one coming up are going to affect the rulings in the insular cases. And so the upshot of the rulings in the insular cases, the reasoning, and it may. It's an interesting read, but pretty heavy to slog through, especially preparing for my first day back in 10 days. I'm kind of, yes, I can stay upright in the saddle as the horse, runs along, but it ain't pretty from where I'm sitting, and my saddle sores aren't as healed as they were back a week or so ago. So, again, our telephone number here, 888-8255. You're welcome to call, or you can post a comment on Facebook Live, and we'll go ahead and take it from there. It's just about a minute before 5 o'clock, and Real Joe is reminding me that it's time for Fox News at the top of the hour. Nate, you can listen in and find out what Fox News is saying is the stuff that you need to be upset about today. And then we'll have our thrilling halftime show with the marching band and the twirling, the flag wavers and the pom-poms and the marching band. So stay tuned for that. And right after that, I'll be back here again. Hope you are too, on Tall Tales.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Going after Warren. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. Many of the Democrats on the debate stage last night went after Senator Elizabeth Warren, who's rising in the polls, competing with former Vice President Joe Biden to be the frontrunner. Biden reminding Warren that he wrangled the votes needed to create the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
I got votes for that bill. I convinced people to vote for it. So let's get those things straight, too.
Senator Warren, do you want to respond?
I
am deeply grateful to President Obama, who fought so hard to make sure that agency was passed into law.
And others taking on Warren during the CNN debate about her proposal to tax the wealthiest Americans. Former Congressman Beto O'Rourke suggesting that is punitive. And former Vice President Biden defiantly defended his son's business practices overseas and denied he did anything wrong.
Advisors for Biden said that he did not want to talk about that. He didn't want to focus on it. They said that they were hoping other Democrats, if it was a question presented to them, that they wouldn't, in their words, take the bait. They felt like this was a debate, a discussion that President Trump wants candidates to have. They feel like the focus should stay on President Trump and what they see as his corrupt behaviors. But when asked about his son, Biden tried to pivot.
My son did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. I carried out the policy of the United States government in rooting out corruption in Ukraine. And that's what we should be focusing on.
Fox's Allison Barber reporting. And for the first time in 86 years, a D.C. team is back in the World Series.
This should do it. Robles will squeeze it, and there it is. The Washington Nationals are National League champions.
Nicole on TBS, America's listening to Fox News.
Kinetico water treatment customers don't keep coming back. They're satisfied the first time. That's right. Kinetico non-electric water treatment systems take care of your water problems, and you won't need to keep calling us for repairs. Join the list of satisfied Kinetico customers who purchased their non-electric water systems years ago and are still enjoying clean, conditioned water without any hassles from timers or circuit boards.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
Did you know that home loan rates have plunged again? Would you like to take advantage of these lower rates to help lower your monthly payments? Refinancing doesn't have to be for another 30 years. It can be for 10, 15, or 20 years. It's up to you. Reduce your monthly payments. Pay off your loan earlier. At Bank Pacific, where we're open to closing your loan in a hurry.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Credit conditions apply.
Still no sign of 3-year-old Camille McKinney, missing from a birthday party Saturday in Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham Police Chief Patrick Smith says 2 rewards are being offered for information, one for $5,000 from the governor's office. Also,
we had a private citizen who stepped up and offered an additional $1,000 reward.
Chief Smith is also appealing directly to the people at the party that night.
Fox's Grinnell Scott. And in Alaska, federal investigators are stepping in to help police as they try to piece together evidence of a homicide.
FBI Special Agent Steve Forrest says the agency is helping to investigate the death of 30-year-old Kathleen Henry, whose remains were found October 2nd along a highway south of Anchorage. 48-year-old Brian Stephen Smith is charged with first-degree murder in her death. The investigation began when a woman called police saying she found a camera memory card containing evidence of a crime. The card was labeled homicide at Midtown Marriott. Midtown is a section of Anchorage. Police say they believe Smith is the only suspect in the case and don't think he had any help filming the crime. Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
NASA moves up the first all-female spacewalk at the International Space Station.
Christina Koch and Jessica Meir were supposed to venture out next week, but will make their spacewalk on Thursday or Friday to replace a broken power unit. Astronauts are in the process of installing new lithium-ion batteries at the space station. Each battery needs a device to monitor the amount of power going in and out. One of those devices failed to kick in last week.
As a result of that, we are down some amount of power.
Space Station Operations Integration Manager Kenny Todd says the problem is manageable, but
not something that we would want to live with in the long term.
NASA planned an all-female spacewalk last spring, but canceled it because of a shortage of medium-sized spacesuits. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
And I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
Take Care Wellness presents the 7th Save the Susu Dance Fitness Fundraiser, October 19th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Teason High School. Tickets are $10 in advance, $15 the day of the event, and $5 for kids ages 6 to 12. Tickets are available at Take Care Wellness, Guam Cancer Care, and through Marissa Collins. Grand prize for the raffle is a round-trip ticket to Asia or Micronesia from United Airlines. All proceeds benefit Guam Cancer Care. This message is made possible by the stations of Choice Broadcasting.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie, who is once again away from the microphone and has left me to keep you company from 4 until 6 weekdays here on Tall Tales. I'm happy to be back. I think I'm getting more into the swing of things as I get back into my first show in about 10 days. And how did I spend my halftime show? I was reading a story out of Bloomberg Opinion by Mihir Sharma that was published yesterday or last night. Economics Nobel celebrates asking the right questions. And it has to do with 2 Nobel Prizes given in the last 5 years for developments in the field of development economics, for advancing the state of understanding through development economics, not econometrics or macroeconomics or business economics or algorithm development or whatever, but development economics. And some of you may recall me mentioning this to you, that was my field in college, was development economics. How can you take a defined economy, an economy that's defined geographically, politically, socially, and take it from some understood point A to some destination point B? And it's going to be different for every society. And as far as the mix of investment and pricing and resolve and framing of the economy by the government, which happens in every. And I bring this up only because today in the Guam Daily Post, Lanny Walker wrote a story about the Gita Chair, 3 Guam hotel projects on hold due to labor shortage. Yeah, how did I get into that? Well, the Guam Economic Development Authority. Those guys who dispense QCs, and I think there's supposed to be a hold on QCs. But now here's there was a hearing for business executives David John and George Chu on their reappointments to serve as members of the Guam Economic Development Authority Board. And this is a hearing that was held on Monday. And as the story goes, the current Gita chair is saying that construction projects are being held up by the H-2B visa program being throttled to death. And the visas for temporary skilled foreign workers in Guam's construction and healthcare sectors have needed workers on H-2B visas because of a shortage of skilled local labor. But the program is for temporary, and we're talking about a chronic problem. When you start talking about a chronic problem, it is enough time for education and price adjustments to fill that problem. As long as you're going to have temporary workers coming in, then you will always alleviate the problem using temporary workers. And that has a downside in itself. We don't train our own people. Or we don't induce those, we don't attract those into the field or get them to stay once they are established in the field. Just think of some other fields where we provide the right salary and working conditions, and then it attracts workers to those jobs, and then we don't have to worry about them taking off to the States. Gov Guam, you know. Well, we should be treating healthcare and construction industry like Gov Guam. And maybe we should treat Gov Guam a little less like Gov Guam. Just, you know. Anyway, so this is the deal. He's concerned. He would continue to focus on resolving the H-2B visa issue. This is David John. But tourism, unfortunately, is not equal to the buildup. And both David John and George Chu have been nominated by our current governor after they've already served two terms. So they've been in the entire Calvo administration, and our current governor has the confidence in them to reappoint them to the board and send their nominations to the legislature so that GITA can continue to do what it did for the last 8 years. And now I'll leave it to you to think of whether that is a good thing or not. But it's just, we want change, right? Well, welcome to the show, Pete, to Tall Tales. You're on the air.
Hey, how's it going, Daryl?
Hey, man, I'm back in the saddle. So what's on your mind this afternoon?
Yeah, I just tuned in. You know, with the H-2 workers, I often wondered why we don't have, you know, the workforce here on Guam too. And I can imagine for those big hotel projects, we would have to have a lot of workers, and those are only occasional projects. Even the military projects as well. I don't imagine we could sustain a large enough workforce of skilled workers on Guam locals. I don't think there'll be enough work for them all year round. Would there be? What do you think?
Well, over the past 20 years, military construction on Guam has hovered around more than $200 million a year. Mm-hmm. And also there's all kinds of stuff. And then with the military buildup, it has continued, because this military buildup has been going on for how many years? You know, the whole idea, where it's about 7 years or so, 8 years, since we first started talking about military buildup. And before that, there were hotels that were being built. There was low-cost housing that was being built. There were roads being built. And then, of course, we have just the growing of our community. So we have commercial buildings and housing replacement. So there's already a standing need for about another 3,000 construction workers. What we see is that there is a consistent requirement over the years for this size of construction sector to be active on Guam, from people who operate heavy equipment to masons and plumbers and electricians and folks who do foundation work, people who do roofing work of various kinds, whether it's metal roofing or cement roofing. It's and they're continually being upgraded with their skills for safety and OSHA requirements and for safe working environment, safe use of equipment. And so our standards are getting better. And you would see, if you look back through the statistics over the last 30, 40 years, that the size of the construction sector has been consistent. Now, the Trump administration has seen this as well, and that's why they choked it, because because until you have this kind of a choke on the workers coming in from outside, you're not going to ever develop your local workforce. And right now we do have local workforce, and there is a local workforce of 1,500 or so, and then we have they've been given we've got about 1,000 H-2s that have been allowed in for the military buildup projects so that they don't fall behind. But the U.S. government has control over this aspect of immigration. But what happens is with the H-2s, and as long as our government, as long as the government of Guam is looking at the way that we can get cheap labor, then it's not going to put investment into education and apprenticeship. It's going to be pretty weak. It's going to be small. It's not going to be something that's really going to show that there's a future in construction for people to live a life. And one of the other things that H-2 workers are providing, as far as some find it to be a benefit, others find it to be just terrible, and that is that there is what's called a prevailing wage. And as long as you're going to offer jobs for $14 an hour or $17 an hour, and these jobs are being paid $35 an hour in the mainland, even if you train them here, you're not going to get people staying. And so the H-2 program depresses the wages, and even if you do get people trained, they're not going to stay and stick with it here. Some of the labor, the local labor that is in the market, they're older workers, and they don't have to work all the time, or they have contracts, small companies that contract a group of labor, local labor, to go and assist some big company to do some aspect under a subcontract. But the big companies that are bidding on these construction projects for the buildup, all of their calculations are based on cheap foreign labor. It is not Guam labor. It is imported labor. They refuse to adjust because it's going to raise the price of construction, and they don't want to do that because then they might lose out to other companies that have higher skilled construction workers that wouldn't be brought in from inexpensive labor markets, but be brought in from expensive labor markets. But that's exactly what the residents of Guam need. And
that's interesting. I've never heard that take on it before. The theory that the reason why they stopped H-2s coming in is so that the local folks can be forced to grow its force. I guess
it's in the national news. Isn't it in the national news? We have to stop immigration so Americans can get jobs. That's been going on since President Trump has taken office. That's been in the national news. But on Guam, it's been an issue for the last 60 years. And it's just that we don't think of our current problems or challenges or opportunities on Guam as in the same light. We don't apply the principles to our problems. And so we don't see the solutions right in front of our eyes. And some of it, there are many people on Guam who say, you don't want to raise the price of construction workers because then the price of building a home is going to go up. The cost of building your house is going to go up, and you won't be able to afford it. And that's not a good reason to not train your own people to take the jobs in your own community because it'll become too expensive to build a house. That's not a good reason. You have to allow the market to set the price of labor, but as long as you're going to undercut it with foreign labor, you'll never develop a market. The market here on Guam for labor is depressed. It causes lots of poverty in Guam.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to ask if you're aware of, every location has a sort of a score of how easy it is to start a business. And there's a lot of factors like government stability, availability of utilities, road conditions, how easy it is to get a license or an inspection and all that.
Yes.
What do you think Guam rates?
Well, however Guam rates. In fact, I've got an article that's kind of in the typewriter. It's in the word processor. I've been working on for a while, because our agencies like GITA. Now, I was looking at GITA when I was in 7th grade, because there was a girl I had a crush on. Her dad was in charge of GITA. And I was really interested in GITA as economic development. How do you take your economy from where you are to where you want to go? Intentionally, without being socialist about it. How do you move the whole community forward? And the thing is that what we've got for GITA is a place where they say, you know what, if you come through us, then you don't have to actually follow all the laws that we have on our books, because we've got these sweeteners over here called QCs. And then now look at the current administration of Lulian Guerrero. She has former Governor Carl Gutierrez as the person where it's a funnel. You got to go through him if you want to get the most sweeteners on your investment. Well, that means that all of the way that GovGuam is set up doesn't have to change. Oh, he's gone. Ah.
We have line 3 only right now.
Okay, I will be right with you, Lucia. Let me just finish this thought. And thank you very much, Pete, for the call. This is pretty stimulating stuff. We are supposed to make it our community attractive for investors, not make our politicians attractive to be the godfathers of investors. This is supposed to be a government of laws, not men. And when you see this kind of malarkey going on, it should give you a rash. And that's why I'm sitting here this afternoon, because this is civics, 301. This is stuff that we have to be responsible for and not let our politicians, do with the government as if it's theirs, as if it's their own playground. They're supposed to provide services, they're supposed to be efficient with the use of our taxes, and they're supposed to attract foreign investment and outside investment, outside interest, so that we can grow our economy, not grow their own. My goodness. Thank you very much, Pete, for that call, because you got my blood going here. And someday I'll finish that article and you'll see it in print. Lucia, thank you very much for staying with me here on Tall Tales. You're on the air.
Hi, and my name's Lucia.
Oh, Lucia. Yes.
Yeah, no worries. I've had my name mispronounced for so long. It's fine. I just wanted to call in. I'm a contractor here on Guam, and I'm also a member of several portions of the Guam Contractors Association, Small Business Committee, and as well as NAWIC. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments from what I was hearing from the previous caller that got your blood boiling. Mm-hmm. But at this point in time, the Guam Department of Labor is pushing very heavily on cultivating the labor force here on Guam. They are working very diligently to work on an apprenticeship program and, again, cultivating the labor that we have. NAWIC is working very diligently with the women on island, and we want to let the women know that there are avenues for work for them in construction that they may not have ever known. Right now, we do know that there is not enough local labor for everything that needs to happen here on Guam over the next 4 or 5 years, or 10 years, or however long it takes. Unfortunately, the only thing that we can do is go to the H2s to fill the gap that after we are working with our local labor. Guam is a wonderful island. It's got a wonderful population. We just need to get people trained up on some stuff. And the Department of Labor discussed very heavily today insofar as the apprenticeship programs, and how they would work with the local contractors here, with the local labor to get people apprenticeships and be able to get them certified to be able to go to work.
You know, you're right. Lucia, you're absolutely right. And I'm really happy to see the apprenticeships being pushed. It's just, it's similar to the approach of Guam Trades Academy to offer a technical program, technical certifications for various aspects in the construction field, which is vast. I mean, there's everything from inspections to safety to estimation to whatnot. There's a lot of jobs available, but what is the biggest draw for young people to go into the field? Is it that there is an apprenticeship program, or that there are courses available, or is it the prospects of earning a good living because of the compensation?
It's a career.
That's right, but what careers have been cultivated over the years here on Guam when we've had the H-2 workers?
I can't go back. I can't go backwards, but I can tell you, cultivating careers to get the young folks involved and understanding that you can do carpentry, you can do plumbing, you can do electrical, you can do HVAC, but you can also do quality control, you can do safety managers, you can do inspections, you can do HR, you can do administrative, you can do project management. You can be a part of it even in a different field outside of construction. Mm-hmm. And the H-2s, again, the H-2s are, and this may sound horrible, but this is one of the things that the Department of Labor was explaining to us, that there's not enough local workforce to handle all of the work. And to bring in an H-2, it is not there's a distinct difference of the H-2 in the mainland and the H-2s here. Unfortunately, the H-2s from the Philippines especially were cut off due to the amount of retention, which we don't have here in Guam, and quite honestly, the amount of human trafficking in the mainland, which we don't have here in Guam. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the main reasons why right now they're trying to open up the H-2s to work along with the locals. I don't think it needs to be an either or. I think it needs to be looked at as a collaboration, but with the main focus of the local community and the local workers, and letting people know that there are avenues out there.
Lucia,
jobs available.
Lucia, there's been this discussion has been going on since the 1960s, that we don't have enough people locally, and when we have built up our local workforce, it became advantageous to change the business model in order to reduce the cost of labor and still get the services. And so we saw the wholesale gutting of the civil service workforce, the federal civil service workforce in the trades, and we also saw major industries that were supporting the training and the movement of local workers through major industries like SRF, the ship repair facility, into the local economy dry up because of decisions that were made. And it's really hard for people to trust the government to get it right when decades of lip service have been expended. And the only thing that's different now, and the reason we can have this discussion now, is because this is the first time, this is about 3 years now, that we have not had just open gates for H-2 workers. And it's the only way that the point can be driven home that there is actually a future in construction on Guam, and that the jobs will not simply go to somebody who's willing to work for a lower wage. Or
well, the one thing is especially with the military buildup, I do want to make mention the wages when you're working in construction. Somebody did bring up the prevailing wage, and to bring people over, please understand that there are costs associated. And again, I'm not for or against. My position is this: in order to continue work on support of the buildup and the buildup itself for the federal government contract side, there needs to be a collaboration between the two, because you can't have just one without the other, because there's honestly not enough manpower, physical bodies here, and even in the local sector, to be able to handle it.
Yeah, no, this is clear. You're in the field, and I was fortunate to have gotten out of Gov Guam and had gone into a telecom consultancy where we were working on the bases in a installation of equipment side by side with H2 workers, and we would stop and have our lunch together, and they would tell us about how they came to Guam and what their living conditions were like, and what their salary and benefits and costs were, and there was no enforcement of the rules of what their employers could do to recover costs, and it was and this is the besides the prevailing wage, which is less than market wage. And then the recovery of costs, which is reasonable on its face, but it is not policed or regulated effectively. And so, for those of us who have grown up here, it's I've got gray hair already, and things haven't changed much. We know that there are people who've gone into construction and have made a living, and there are more who want to. And it's not that they have to be the sons and daughters of those who were in construction before. It should just be jobs available. But it's
Absolutely.
not. Yeah. And thank you very much for your perspective this afternoon. I appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Okay. Call again sometime. Okay, we've got Francis and Joe waiting on the line, but we got to take our break here at 5:33. It's past time for my seventh inning stretch, and if I don't get that in, I'm going to be all cramped up before we get to the top of the hour. So let's take that break now, Real Joe, and come back with more of your calls here on Tall Tales.
GPSI Guam is a professional services company that is a registered contractor for the federal government. They're an SBA, 8A, and Hub Zone certified SDVOSB, providing program/project management, administration, technical support, logistics, and commodities. Find out more about GPSI and how they can help you today. For large prime companies, contact GPSI if you need assistance in meeting your small business subcontracting goals at 477-3058. They'll be happy to assist.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training every morning on The Ray Gibson Show.
Did you know that there are 6 categories of leadership style, and you're likely to run into all of them sooner or later? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we'll run down the list and let you know what to expect.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mescla. Try their featured special for October. Taiwan-style beef noodle soup. Beef shank and tendons slowly simmered in a rich Taiwanese-style soy-based broth. Served over noodles with bok choy and cilantro. Available in Agana and in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
Welcome back to Tall Tales. It is 5:35. We have another 25 minutes to go. It seems like my coffee's kicked in for the afternoon, and we are off on a roll. Thank you very much, Alicia, for your call. We appreciate the discussion. And, the reminder that there are many, many people who are working on expanding the local workforce. And that's, and this really deserves some sustained attention. And And we haven't gone quite far enough. Even after 3 years of not having H2 approvals, we haven't gone far enough to take advantage of this contrast. Let's see what's shaking on line one. I've got Joe on line one. Welcome to Tall Tales, Joe.
Yeah, you covered a few issues there that really are recurring issues that come up in the economics locally. But you said that we've talked about military buildup only 7, 8 years. I think it's more than that because I remember going back to when Cowboy was in the legislature, and that's going back like 12, 16 years.
Yep.
So I think a little bit more than 7, 8 years we were talking about military buildup. When the 3 stars showed up, I think it was a 3 star from Hawaii.
Was it 12 years? Yeah, I was working there when Eddie was in charge of Ways and Means, and I was working.
So he was in the legislature. This 3 star showed up from Hawaii, and he was telling them, he says, "You guys are not prepared." And it's amazing. It's the same message now. We're not prepared.
Yes, isn't it amazing? We're not prepared.
Yeah, exactly. And so the thing is that we have to factor in. Well, we're Americans, and so the question is, what do you think the American dream is, and because that's what we're ultimately trying to work toward, or have some semblance of, as far as our lifestyle, and usually connects to the land and how kind of house we live in, how much money we want to earn, how much money we need to earn. But the issue is that training is not available. It was available. Then they decided that they're going to shift over towards, I think, as you said, more towards computer training sort of things. But for also the equipment, technology's changed. So heavy equipment was a good place to learn. If you had a certification in heavy equipment, you could make a lot of money until they started modernizing the equipment and became technology orientated.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know the details of that, but I'm guessing it has to do with computers to do some of the mechanical work or diagnostics.
Yeah.
So when they stopped certifying at like a GCC to do heavy equipment, certifying mechanics for heavy equipment, and to do that, all these sorts of work, construction, all sorts of work over at GCC. When that stopped, right, it should have been a red light or a red flag going up, because now they have to make up for it in theory with the Trades Academy, which is why they started GCC. And it was the vote.
Right. Yeah.
But their theory, I guess, or their message was, well, we're not making enough money. There isn't something here, and so they shifted over to liberal arts, more towards maybe like a 2-year associate's degree or something.
Talking about GCC.
GCC.
Yeah.
So they're serious, and they look at the local population who, one of the places you can start is the majority are almost somewhat under majority population. They call themselves Chamorro.
Mm-hmm.
And say, hey, what do your kids want to be trained as? What traditionally our elders worked for Navy, big Navy, and whether it be naval government or just working over as the apprenticeship. And so with the Bush Senior and the BRAC, right, the words were downsizing. So that's where you had downsizing, outsourcing, and basically, like you said before, we felt like we couldn't trust the government anymore to be our employer to provide jobs here locally, which is prevalent stateside, but it's something new for us here in Guam. And so this is the adjustment we had to make. Now, again, if you're going to figure out what training to be provided, go to majority populations, what they think their lifestyle should be, or they want it to be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and they have a plan for that, training and career plan, and that's a way to go, I think. And so you're going to need more town halls, more something like comparable TED Talks or economic talks, but.
You're making me smile, Joe. You're making me smile.
Lilianos did maybe a good thing by putting Gutierrez in her administration, as long as he sticks to. He seems to have a handle on the blue collar feel for blue collar careers and blue collar people. So if he sticks to that and he, say, hey man, are you going to start helping us increase the job or the workforce and improve it? I think he can be, he can get into help along that way and find other people who are good at that. But for the most part, everyone else is like white collar. But of course, Leon Guerrero and Cabo, they have to build businesses, right? But ultimately, they're mostly white collar. So it doesn't seem like it seems like they're going to need to bring in people who are more get their hands dirty type people like the terrorists. And so I just want to add that in and see if anyone has any thoughts along that line. And thanks for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Joe, for all your thoughts. It's I've been writing this down. I mean, when you call in, whether it's you, Joe, or Lucia, or let's see, Pete, Carl, Tom, when you call in, I'm writing down. If you see me on Facebook, you see I'm looking down and I'm writing. I'm taking notes because I go back and I take a look. What is it that is on people's minds? And you brought up some great. I mean, it's sort of a shotgun, which is your style, but that's okay. I do that too myself. And but for you to bring up that we're not prepared to fulfill the American dream. We have great systems in place, from GovGuam Employment and Department of Education and College of Guam, University of Guam, GCC, but now apprenticeship program. But are we? Do the students in our schools? Do they have a clear path to a fulfilling life? And what is it that they are expecting? Because they're not only getting their information from us; they're getting their information from social media and news, and talking to their peers, and talking to their relatives who have traveled. And this is in all of the communities, all the different ethnic communities here on Guam. Some see Guam as a field of opportunity, and others do not. And why? We're going to get back to this. I'm going to put this down as one of those subjects we have to talk about it at length. But first, we're going to go to Francis, who has been holding patiently on line 2. Francis, welcome to Tall Tales.
Darryl, how you doing, brother?
Oh, man, I'm back in the saddle and starting to, the same calluses are starting to feel like they're working good.
All right. It sounds like you're doing just fine. We're going to bring it down a couple of notches, okay, because I only have room for 2 sticks in this bucket of mine, okay, and that's you and me.
Got it.
First of all, I love when you enjoyed your conversation with Lucia. First of all, I like her name because it sounds very biblical. It reminds me of those 3 girls, one guy and 2 sew something up in the mountain, something.
But it wasn't Lucia like my aunt. It's Lucia.
Yeah, I have an aunt here in the annex. Here's mother. She's still around. She's a war survivor and all that. She's one of our queens in the village.
And I bet she's a Lucia,
I'm so happy to hear about Lucia's talking about the Trades Academy.
Yeah.
And hopefully one day we'll have a success story about the so-called operating engineers that we're probably going to develop in the years to come. And instead of, in any case, disasters or anything that needs man's help, we can always provide that. And just that's also to include our young boys and girls from the outer islands in the Westpac, in the western this side of the world, Marianas links and all that, and we can all help each other, and maybe prosper and engage in commerce. Man, I'm not really an educated man, but it all sounds good, and I hope reality comes, and it smacks me right in the face. I want to see this, maybe even you, before we, because I really hate for you to anybody ask you about me to tell somebody that I won't tell you how he died, but I can tell you how he lived.
Yeah.
Anyway, that thing with the immigration thing, the immigration enforcement, that was a federal law in the mainland USA, right?
Yes, but it also has impact out here.
Yeah, that what did they do? I think the PI was one of them that was not allowed to engage in H2 contractors, something in the mainland.
Well, they were
because of certain, like kidnapping, whatever. What else? Federal laws.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we don't have that here. Maybe that's probably what Lucia was trying to say. But still, it's a U.S. territory, and that should also be enforced here. And
well,
I can't see why anybody would try to work that around.
Well, what did
I don't care if we don't have a great number of kidnappings and all this. What do you call that? That other immigration violation. Anyway,
Francis, we're a small community, and it may be that the feds didn't want to put too fine a point on it because at some point, as you start explaining yourself and how you administer a program, when it starts to identify people individual people or individual companies, then they have to kind of stand back and not go there because unless you're going to charge people with a crime, then you can't be saying things about them, right? As from the government side, right? And so, but Guam being as small as it is, it's difficult for them to describe the problems on Guam. It's much easier to describe the problem in the States, and then Guam gets splashed with the same enforcement directive because they're not saying we're going to enforce it differently on Guam. And I think it may be that Governor Gutierrez is seeking to carve Guam away because our enforcement is different. But our history is that our enforcement has been really lax. And that is the real information. And if we had been stricter on our enforcement with the H2 program, we would have had better results recruiting local labor to come into the program, into these fields. It would have worked well together. But the problem is that they don't enforce well their own regulations, whether it's the feds enforcing it or Guam Department of Labor, which is wholly paid by the U.S. government to implement the administrative oversight of the program. If they were doing their job better, then the development of our local labor would have been much, much better. It's our own government that has compromised the development of the labor market on Guam in favor of cheap labor, exploitable labor.
Oh man, there you go. Anyway, yes, you're right. I think I see a better picture. Of course, the states have certain states have their own immigration enforcement, and
no.
I guess it's not different from.
No, in the states,
it's different from anybody else. So I guess if we got our shats together here, we'll probably be okay.
Well, it's different in the states. The states do not enforce labor law. The feds enforce labor law, but on Guam, we're not treated as a state. The local agencies are deputized by the national agencies to do the enforcement. Guam EPA is deputized to administer the federal laws on Guam.
Okay.
Concerning environment.
I'm like under the administrative power right now.
Yeah, but it's like they just give a grant and say you hire people and then you administer this law. It's just like the Department of Labor. It's the same thing. But when they don't do a real good job of it because the decisions are being made by the governor, then it becomes political, and then they don't want to say, oh, these people have been, are the emerging, maturing government of Guam is not doing it right. They don't want to come out and say that. They do it every now and then, like with our solid waste or something like that, right? But
yes.
But they don't like doing it, like with our highways, right? The takeover of our highway division and putting in Parsons Brinkerhoff, and they don't want to flag it that that we're being lazy, or we're being political, or we're pulling our punches, or we're skimming, or we're taking advantage of people. But when you read that in the States there's human trafficking, it can easily be you could easily fit the data from Guam into that same under that same heading. And it's unfortunate because I've met these people, and they're really good people. I love them, to work with. And
yes.
But it's awful. Francis, hang on, okay? Let's take a break, and we'll come right back with your call, and we'll continue to discuss here.
All right,
okay?
all right.
Okay, hang on. We'll be right back with Francis after this break. It's 5:51.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,600 by calling Family Finance in Agutya at 475-4545, Upper Tumon at 647-5626, or in Dededo 633-4473. Family Finance, serving the people of Guam since 1959.
It's a one-of-a-kind wine fundraiser. Guahan Sustainable Culture presents Wine in the Garden. The Hamamoto Gardens help support food sovereignty, security, and sustainability while sipping wines from around the world, surrounded by 50-some acres of beautiful farm and garden. Tickets are $75 each. Proceeds support education and outreach on how important, easy, and fun sustainable practices can be. Wine in the Garden is on Saturday evening, October 26th, starting at 5. For more details, go to our website, gusustainable.org, or call 687-6491.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And we're back for the last 6 or 7 minutes of Tall Tales. I've got Francis on the phone, and I've got my sister-in-law watching us from Georgia. And Ishmael Velez says, problem is that most people now want to go straight into management or desk jobs. Maybe most people do, but I think there are probably enough graduates every year who can aspire to jobs that are fulfilling.
Yes, that's the continuity we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we, of course, we get all, and then we have your new team or your new generation that comes in with that engineering specialty, and you know what? There was so much, Darryl, on that immigration thing. If I remember correctly, there was so much, even the illegal aliens were protected at one time, and then that's what the states started to come out with their own immigration, state enforcement. But they were never turned down in the mainland USA, yes. It's just so much, man. I understand. I see where you're coming from. And I hope things go well. I can understand the military buildup, and I heard you talking about the petition, for contract workers from the PI, and I don't know, maybe Korea, something that we'll have to work with the military buildup and maybe engage in buildings outside of the military zone that is connected with the military buildup and all that. I hear you. Mm-hmm. I hear you. It sounds good. I just hope everything just works out, By the way, it's way past a beer 30, so that girl, did you pursue and marry her? From the economic development thing?
Oh, no. She was, I was only 7th grade, man. Just getting my feet wet, so to speak. But she was a sweetheart.
Thanks for the conversation, man, Darryl. It's always nice, man, and educational. So we were looking forward to listening to you and your Tom there.
Yeah. Well, I think we have a good gang going here, and I appreciate your calls because you get me going, and also it's because we're trying to do something here, not just here on the radio, but we're trying to do something with our community. And what do we do? We stay informed, we care, we share, with other people around us about our concerns and our aspirations and our hopes and fears, and then we go and we vote, and we have expectations of other people who are holding responsible positions in not in the private sector. That's all been worked out, in the economy, but in the public sector is where you and I intersect, where we have a say, and we have employees. We have people working for us, and we pay them well, and we have standards about how well they have to be prepared to do their job, and then how well they do their job. And we share this concern with people who actually throw money at us to get the job done, and that's the federal government. So we have a partner in this. People actually willing to put up the money so we can have that done here and employ people locally to get it done. And we share a common vision, as Joe was saying, the American dream. We're trying to build not just our a common life, but our individual lives. But we see that it's not moving as fast as the rest of the world is. And so we need to step up our game. We need for the people who work for us to step up their game.
I'll talk to you about that, about this people engaging in commerce, and especially on a 12 by 20 some piece of island. So maybe we'll continue tomorrow. I'll see if I can get back to you tomorrow, God willing. Inshallah.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much for the call,
Darryl.
Francis. Have a good evening. Okay. Yeah, it's almost time for me to hit that same well, I can't do it here, I can't drink on the air, but I will be there. and not too long, I have to drive. And so after I drive, then I'll be free. One thing I didn't get to today, Real Joe, as a subject.
What was that?
Well, we got two stories today in the paper. One about one of GMH's operating rooms is unusable, and then another one where Guam patients have been receiving life-changing care at a Taiwan hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
my cousin Ted's one of the guys that went through that.
You're a Nelson?
No, I'm not a Nelson. I'm related to the Nelsons.
Okay, well.
I'm related to the Scamaluris.
Oh, hey. You have that's a good thing to flag to the rest of us who know. But you see, how is it that on page 1 we have GMH operating room unusable, and then on page 8 of the very same paper, Guam patients receive life-changing care at Taiwan Hospital. And it's not the two hospitals that we already know about. It's a third hospital.
Sad, huh?
No, it's not sad. It's pure potential. It means that we've got solutions at hand, and we're not getting them in real time, right here in our own community. We should, gotta call a spade, and I don't. Well, you're playing the music again, Real Joe. What are we supposed to do?
I'm on a time clock.
Yeah, thank you very much, for watching that clock for us. I'm Darryl Taggarty. It's been my pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I'm back, and I'll be back until Bob gets back. And I haven't calculated how many days it's going to be, but I'll be here again tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Ray Gibson will be here in this chair tomorrow morning at 6, so tune in for him and the Ray Gibson Show. And thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon, and have a really good evening, everyone.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The candidates unite on impeachment. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. In Ohio, the first